So one thing that I'm thinking is, obviously this is great at unifying applications that have to reside in different fundamental environments, or, I don't have all your terminology in my head, but roughly speaking that's what it does. But at the same time, I mean, HTML5 is delivering some of that promise. So I look at this as pulling together a number of problems that are already being solved. And that's not to put down what you're doing, because obviously there's more to it because of the depth at which you're trying to solve it and how you're trying to solve them as a constellation of problems to solve. But I'm interested because obviously a lot of people are investing in moving their products to HTML5, and in some cases it's a year and a half just to plan it, but in other cases, they're going to get disrupted by somebody that's got an HTML5 native team, and the winner might not be, the legacy application working perfectly in Friend OS. The winner might be the guy that disrupted them in their vertical.
Well, hence the lion and the antelope analogy. The tech risk is now very low, from a business investor point of view. The execution game has just started, and it's all about, can we actually execute and can we deploy and run, and everyone will. We are now an enabler for transitioning into the new paradigm. But as Hogne said the other day, we intend to continue to stay as the enabler for constant transitioning. And
to elaborate on that is that if we talk to our guys who do the Windows integration layer, they look in the future on apps that are just projected into, onto user screens from somewhere on the internet. So every app will just be a projection. So what we're doing with HTML5 is that we're actually doing something very hard. We're projecting complexity that lives on its has its own life once it has been sent. And then we're trying to control that somehow and send it back if we need to do 2 sessions at the same time and so on. But the point is that what we want to do, which is kind of becoming our business, is the transitioning. So when we get something new after that, we will be going to kind of transition you further. So we're going to always be that conduit that you're going through, so that there's always possibilities. So the unifying platform is really a philosophy about always being there to make sure that you can have no limits and free creativity, no matter what the current limitations are. And so right now the current limitations are that streamed or projected applications like Citrix limit what you're able to do by boxing you in. So now we just dissolve that. So now what do you want to do? And now you can start thinking about adding value to it.
Remember, I told you I knew a bit of Turbo Pascal and that was it. But I've been employing and managing a lot of great developers, so something stuck over the years. And when we spoke the first call, he created the API very gently, so I got to understand a bit more. And then I said, this sounds like a superglue business type of Citrix 2.0 type of thingy. That was what I got from it on the first call. And it was pretty correct in many senses, but we as Friend would then go to Citrix and say, hey, because they're stuck in their paradigm.
Sure they are.
Yeah.
And yeah, and look at
reinvent themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what Friends do. Yeah, it might bounce. It might bounce. It might bounce. They might say, it's stupid. We'll do it ourselves. But then I will say, okay, good luck, cool, because to build something like this in a conform way, good luck. $10 million ain't gonna cut it, because how do you spec it?
Right.
Who's gonna do it? How many cooks in the kitchen? It's not the number of cooks in the kitchen, it's the quality of the cooks. And you gotta be pretty ambidextrous to do something like this. So we need to keep on running. I'm not saying someone else is gonna catch on to it. Yeah, sure, this is the future. We are just using existing infrastructure in a very smart way, and we found some ways to glue it together. Correct.
Tons of old software that people want to bring into the 21st century but can't. Like that. So clearly, there's a big market segment there.
This is very interesting because we went to an API conference last year in was the Bay Area, right?
Yeah,
Integrate. And so the API market is booming, and they're doing for backends what we're doing for front ends.
Right.
So we're doing front end integration or client side integration, as well as enabling server side integration. And that's where we bring some interesting technology. So this is it basically. We're using DOS to integrate on the server side, primarily, because that gives you one language to talk to all kinds of data objects. And then on the client side, we use the OS paradigm with libraries and devices and all that stuff, high level in JavaScript. So that way you get full flexibility on your client-side integration and full flexibility on your server-side integration. And nobody's doing that because there's an OS on each side. Well, we're an OS that spans on all sides. So that's why we called it a meta OS in the beginning, because it's something that acts as if it's an OS, so that you can do the things you do in an OS everywhere. And I don't think anybody's doing that.
One of the challenges is, how do you explain it?
Sitting here.
Right,
exactly.
So, I mean, I'm in product management, and sometimes I think half my days is, we're sitting on this thing, which is great, but how do we explain it? And so you start with, I'm a very much, show me something and imagine it and then add to it. So the things that I'll get very quickly, the things that I probably won't see as fast as other people that are a little bit more, like big dreamers. So I work with people like that.
Yeah,
and
but that's why I just explained to you in detail how we sell it.
Right.
Because
So
you can't talk about it, you have to show it.
The part that I understand best is that this is virtualization without walls.
Yes.
Right, and you can use that slogan for a small residual for me.
$10 a month per person.
It's abstraction.
And that's the part of what you're solving that I understand. But I definitely feel like there's more that you want to say about what you're offering than just that. So I'd love to see.
We're afraid of doing that, because when we do that, then we get into the you're never going to get big, so you're going to fail type of thing.
Yeah.
So we're trying to be really, really focused.
So is that your launch story, effectively, then, that we will solve your problems that you thought were virtualization problems? We will solve through this abstraction.
To some VCs and PEs and so that is unfortunately the route we have to go.
So
to
what that's doing
others,
is underselling the value in a language that everyone understands.
precisely, and
Yeah.
that's not a good thing
It's
for. It's not a good for dilution if you can understand. That's why we're running. So that's why we're running as far as we can with use cases. But you see, having not sold shares to a VC or PE ever, even though they tried, I bootstrapped my old company from zero to exit. I also know how these processes go, so you just need to get their attention. And
Not
then
scare them away.
meeting 4, meeting 5, the flower opens up, and that's going to scare them because they want you focused. And then I say, well, yeah, but the whole universe looks like this. I couldn't tell you that in the first meeting because I am actually quite coherent. I'm a rather disciplined guy, and we have a great crew, super people. We know that 80% of the focus shall be on this vertical and then we set that off in an own business. We spawn it as a vertical, or it's an own company under Friend Software Corporation with people who take that rocket. And then the next, but we are thinking all of them. We're also thinking B2C. We're thinking, the whole.
So
but it's hard.
My line of comments and questions has a point, and it's partly how I'm thinking it out, but I'm building towards something, which is, so I get the virtualization replacement part. So tell me something that isn't about that, primarily about that you also think that might be your next bowling pin to knock over, or the next big piece. And maybe you covered that a little bit, and maybe I was stuck on the virtualization problem and I missed it.
And here's the $20 for leading him into the next PowerPoint.
All right, it's under his chair.
Most people are telling us to keep it simple. You're asking us to wind it up. It's really great. That's why we want to do this.
Deeper. I want to see what's beyond.
Yes.
There's definitely more to this.
Yes. And
glad you asked.
that's the discussion we want to have. Because that's the, excuse me for being a bit megalomaniac, that's the visionary stuff. and this is what has given.
And now you're supposed to say, so you are going too big and you're going to fail. Ha ha ha! And you leave.
No, but in a way, I'm not surprised that we're being asked this question, because these guys, all of you, are visionary guys. That's why you did what you did 25 years ago.
Yeah.
So we're not at all surprised, but it's very heartwarming that you are asking us a question, because generally speaking, people are saying to us, "Oh, don't tell us too big a story, because you'll lose the focus," and it's quite hard. But excellent.
It doesn't change that if I know what you're really up to.
Can I please? I want to deliver this in one coherent, and then but because it's easier to talk it through, because it is. To be honest, it's the hardest thing I've ever done. And I've done a lot of tough things, but to crunch this and then come up with the mega plan, and then have to derive it down again. And this is actually not it, because I'll show it like this. We can show it in different ways, but this makes sense.